How does it feel to be completely useless, daughter? My mother didn't whisper those words behind closed doors. She said them out loud, right across a crowded restaurant table in front of 20 family members, her voice dripping with cruel satisfaction. For years, she treated me like an embarrassment while showering my golden child brother with unearned praise and luxury. She expected me to break down in tears. She expected me to run out of the room humiliated. Instead, I set my glass down, looked her dead in the eye, and delivered a calm, devastating answer that wiped the smirk off her face forever. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where toxic people learn the hard way that quiet dignity always outlasts arrogant disrespect. If you love satisfying stories of real justice, hit subscribe, like this video, and let's get into it. My name is Hannah, and at 31 years old, I had spent most of my life being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home. To my mother, Marion, children only existed to feed her vanity, and in her eyes, I was a complete disappointment simply because I preferred quiet hard work over flashy showmanship. Everything in our family was handed on a silver platter to my younger brother, Kevin. If Kevin failed a class, it was the teacher's fault. If he wrecked a car, Marion bought him a newer one the next morning. While he floated through his 20s on our parents' dime, I worked 60-hour weeks, put myself through college, and quietly built a career in commercial real estate acquisitions. I never asked Marion for a single dollar or a pat on the back. But instead of respecting my independence, she viewed my private life as proof of failure. She genuinely believed that because I didn't boast or demand attention, I had accomplished nothing at all. Last year, Kevin decided to launch a high-end event catering business, and Marion acted as though he had single-handedly revolutionized the corporate world. Every family phone call, holiday dinner, and casual conversation turned into a relentless broadcast about her brilliant boy's unstoppable empire. She went out of her way to tell every relative that Kevin was the only child carrying the family's legacy forward into high society. Naturally, elevating Kevin meant tearing me down. Whenever anyone politely asked about my career in property consulting and acquisitions, Marion would loudly cut in, waving her hand with contempt. She dismissed my work as a boring little desk job that barely covered my rent, openly pitying me for having no ambition. Then came the grand announcement. Marion booked a private dining hall at an upscale downtown restaurant for a lavish family banquet. On the surface, it was meant to celebrate Kevin's upcoming business expansion. In reality, it was a carefully staged arena designed to crown her golden son as the family savior while reducing me to a silent spectator. The private banquet room at the Grand Sterling was dripping with excess. Over 20 guests, extended relatives, longtime family friends, and several of Kevin's prospective business associates sat around a grand mahogany table set with crystal stemware and silver chargers. I arrived on time, wearing a simple black tailored pantsuit. The moment I walked in, Marion's smile froze into a glare. Instead of welcoming me, she snapped her fingers and pointed toward the corner of the room. In front of our aunts and cousins, she loudly asked if I could help the waitstaff clear the appetizer plates and refill water glasses since I wasn't chipping in for the expensive dinner bill. I ignored the jab, took my seat near the far end, and watched the performance unfold. Throughout dinner, Marion praised Kevin's brilliant business instincts, hanging on his every word while making subtle, mocking comparisons to my quiet life. Kevin played his part effortlessly, basking in the applause. Midway through the meal, he stood up and announced with grand theatrics that his catering company was securing the master commercial lease on the city's premier waterfront plaza, claiming it would double his profits by year's end. The table erupted in enthusiastic applause, and my brother beamed, raising both hands to soak in the adoration. Waiters cleared the main course, and the dining room settled into a comfortable lull. That was when my mother rose from the head of the table. She tapped her sterling silver butter knife against her crystal champagne glass, signaling for complete silence. The chatter ceased. Everyone turned toward her, expecting a heartfelt toast celebrating Kevin's milestone, or a proud mother's tribute to her favorite child. Instead, Marion's eyes drifted past Kevin, scanned the room, and locked directly onto me at the far corner. A cold, venomous grin spread across her face. She paused, making sure every pair of eyes followed her piercing gaze right to my seat. Kevin is out here building an empire and securing our family's name for generations, Marion projected, her voice cutting sharp through the quiet hall. Then she leaned forward, staring dead into my eyes. Tell me, Hannah, how does it feel to be completely useless, daughter? While your brother builds a legacy, you barely manage to justify your own existence. The dining room fell into a dead, suffocating silence. A relative dropped their fork with a sharp clatter, and my aunt stared down at her lap, mortified by the cruelty of the insult. Everyone held their breath, bracing for the inevitable, the burst of tears, the shaking voice, or the humiliated rush for the door. Instead, I placed my linen napkin on the table, took a slow, deliberate sip of ice water, and looked directly past my mother's sneer at Kevin. Kevin, I said, my voice smooth, steady, and carrying effortlessly across the quiet room. What's the exact corporate name of the commercial landlord holding the master lease for that waterfront plaza you're expanding into? Kevin froze mid-smile, blinking in confusion. It's Crestview Commercial Assets, he muttered, darting a nervous glance at Marion. I reached into my blazer pocket, pulled out an embossed corporate business card along with a printed legal document, and slid them into the center of the table. It feels just fine, Mother, I continued calmly, locking eyes with Marion. In fact, as the managing partner who purchased Crestview Assets last month, I personally reviewed Kevin's lease expansion and rejected his 6-month rent deferral request this morning. So, if you really want to talk about usefulness, I suggest asking Kevin why he's 3 months behind on rent to his useless sister. The smug, self-satisfied look on Marion's face shattered in an instant. Her jaw went slack, and the color drained completely from her cheeks as her eyes fixed on the legal notice bearing my signature and corporate seal. Beside her, Kevin turned as pale as a sheet of paper. He reached out with trembling fingers, picked up the document, and stared at the bold default notice printed at the top. He tried to muster a stammered excuse, but no words came out. A sharp ripple of murmurs tore across the long table. Extended relatives exchanged wide-eyed, stunned glances, while Kevin's prospective business associates quietly looked down, realizing the entire grand expansion was built on unpaid bills and sheer fantasy. In a matter of seconds, the elaborate stage Marion had constructed to humiliate me collapsed entirely upon her and her golden boy, leaving both of them paralyzed in absolute silence. I stood up, smoothed down my blazer, and placed enough cash on the table to cover my dinner before walking out into the quiet night. The next morning, I instructed my legal team to handle Kevin's account like any other defaulted tenant. No family discounts, no leniency, and zero special treatment. True strength never needs to shout or belittle others to feel important. It lets the results speak for themselves. Have you ever had a toxic family member try to humiliate you in public, only for the truth to turn the tables on them? Share your thoughts and personal stories in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to BT Revenge Tales, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of sweet payback.